Good afternoon and welcome back. Today joining us is Stephenie Zamora. She is an author and life coach, a business and marketing strategist, and the founder of Call of the Void TV. She merges her worlds of personal development, energy healing, intuitive coaching, writing, and mixed media art to help individuals rise up and come back from the darkest, hardest chapters of their life. She guides her clients through the challenging process of reorienting to their own lives, relationships, and work in a way that's fully aligned with who they've become in the aftermath of loss, trauma, depression, or just big life changes. After struggling with PTSD, grief, and anxiety from a sudden traumatic loss, she's navigated her own difficult journey and has set out to help others find the purpose of their own path. And she does this using the hero's journey as a framework. So I'm looking forward to you sharing about that with us. So welcome, Stephenie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure. So I would love it if you could just kind of go all the way back to the beginning of your story, because I know that your business and your passions have kind of evolved over the last couple of years. So if you don't mind, go back to the beginning and tell us kind of the process of how you came to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels so far away now, how we have so many different seasons of life, but it all really started when I was 21 years old. I had graduated from college at the top of my class. I had an amazing job at a local graphic design firm. I was making a lot more money than my peers. I just bought a townhouse with my high school sweetheart, and I basically had built the perfect little life. I built the life that I really was told was what everybody wants, and I had set out to achieve, and I had done it a lot sooner than a lot of my peers. And I remember waking up, I was in my townhouse, in my home office. I think my boyfriend at the time was in the other room working on something. Everything was picture perfect. And I remember that it was like waking up from a dream where suddenly I was looking around my own home thinking, where am I and how did I even get here? And yeah, the hardest part was like not having a sense of where I was, but also not having any clue what I would have wanted instead, or who I was, or what to do about any of it. So I like to describe it as I took a metaphorical sledgehammer to my picture perfect life and basically destroyed everything in a really positive way. So I started job hopping, trying to find what is it that I want to be doing. Maybe I just need another job. I ended that relationship and jumped right into another one. I ended up moving across the ocean to Hawaii to start a design business with my then boyfriend. I was really trying to change everything outside of myself to figure out what needs to happen in order for me to be happy. And I hadn't yet discovered the world of personal development. I certainly had no idea that there were life coaches out there, not even books on personal growth. So I was doing what a lot of people do, is where we start to try to change everything outside of us, change the external pieces, the material pieces, the relationships.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, I think it was 2008, 2009, when I was working, basically doing data entry and reception work while I was building a design business. And I came across Jack Canfield's book. Oh, what's it called? Success Principles, one of my favorite all-time books. And one of the first chapters in that book is all about taking 100% ownership for your life. And that concept just changed everything for me. I had already been pretty good about taking ownership. If I was late for something, I wouldn't blame the traffic. I would think I should have left earlier, but I wasn't taking ownership for how I was feeling in my life and kind of what was manifesting around me. So I got really excited about this concept of full responsibility and started asking myself, what did I do to allow this to happen, no matter what the situation was? So sometimes that was, I'm not holding a boundary, or I'm not asking for what I need, or maybe I'm gaining weight because I'm eating crappy. Maybe I'm not happy because I'm choosing to focus on the negative things. So that really became a guide for me in my life and started to really spark passion for me in doing life coaching and learning about personal growth and sharing that with the world.
That's awesome. So you kind of built this dream world and things were going well there also for a while, and then something happened.
Yes, most recently. Yeah. So I built up a really successful business over about a 5-year period. And again, my life was in a place that could have been viewed as picture perfect to everyone else. I mean, I was making really good money. I had a team. I was doing work that I was really excited about, running programs. I had the best clients ever. Like, life was good. And I really felt like I was approaching this personal great awakening. And I didn't know what that meant, so I wasn't really going to worry about it. And life had a different plan for me. Life decided that something traumatic would be a good kick in the pants, I guess. And, I ended a relationship with a man I cared very deeply for, and he ended up committing suicide. And that just knocked the wind right out of me. I mean, literally knocked the wind out of me and brought me to my knees and just brought a halt to my entire life, to my business. The people that I thought would always be there for me just suddenly disappeared. And there was a new wave of people that came into my life. And I had really bad PTSD to where my brain just stopped working. I would sit in front of my computer and just cry because I couldn't remember half the clients on my client list. I didn't remember how to build websites, which is what I'd been doing for a while. I couldn't tell you what I did yesterday, let alone put my own life story in order. So it was a very abrupt transition from everything is amazing, and I feel like I'm about to emerge into this new way of being and this new level of business, and then just literally flatlining. And it was a very challenging time.
Very, life really takes us off guard sometimes. And, even though that happened, and I don't downplay your story at all, but really saying that is something common to a lot of people. A lot of us are going along and thinking we're doing okay. And it does seem like almost overnight, like almost instantly, something big happens and we wake up saying, who am I? How did I get here? What am I? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? Is this all there is? And so how do you begin after you've had that moment and you're dealing with the emotions that come along with that, the anxiety, the depression? Some people, it's the PTSD that you have to deal with. How do you begin to just kind of start peeling back and navigating that and come to a place where you feel like life is kind of starting to align, that things are coming back together?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not an easy one to answer because it's different for everybody. But I will say that one of the most important things when you've had a big life transition, or you've had a loss or trauma, and we all have trauma and we all have grief, like that is unavoidable in this life. So we're all going to face it at some point if we haven't already. And that is to acknowledge that you have been changed at your core. And you're not always going to know what that means right off the bat. I certainly didn't. I knew that I was different. I could just feel it in the day-to-day. There were certain things that showed up for me immediately. Like I swore like a sailor, like I had no filter, and that wasn't typical of me. So there was these little things that were different, but it took me I'm still finding ways that I'm not the person that I was before. And I think the most important thing is to acknowledge that I have been altered. Whatever it is I've been through, I've been altered to some degree, and I can no longer be the person that I was before. Because where a lot of the getting stuck and the resistance and the frustration comes from is we're trying to go down a path that used to be really easy for us. I can remember with clarity who I used to be before this loss happened, but I can't access her anymore. And the way I describe it is it's like bumping up against walls where there used to be doors. And if you can acknowledge that, okay, I'm not the person I was yesterday, a year ago, whatever it is, that opens you to the ability to start saying, what's different and how can I change my relationship to literally everything around me? And it really is this reorienting process to your own life. Like, how do I fit back into my world? Do things need to change? Are there hands that I need to let go of? Relationships will absolutely fall away, and make space for new relationships to come in. You know, for me, it was looking at my business and saying, I'm not this person anymore. And in order for me to start growing my business again and to be successful, I have to change it kind of completely in some areas of it. And it's this renegotiation with everyone and everything around you, while honoring that I'm different and feeling into, and each moment, and that's the thing, each and every moment, it takes the choice of choosing the new path and the new chapter and the new life of, you know, does this feel good anymore? Using your intuition and really tuning in and asking that question. Does this person feel supportive? Does it feel like this relationship is going to serve me going forward? Do I want to do this work anymore? Am I the kind of person that mails birthday cards anymore? I mean, it can be the smallest things that are different. And that's the first step, is saying, okay, I'm different, and let's tune in and see what feels right now. And really honoring that can be hard, because the people around you may acknowledge that you've been through something, but they're still relating to you as you used to be, which is normal and to be expected. And so it is really a conversation and a renegotiation. And you don't always have the answers. I mean, there are still areas of my life where I'm talking with people and I'm saying, I don't know what it's going to look like, but it can't be this way anymore. And let's figure that out together.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the process of coming into that. What were some tools that you used to begin getting clarity around the new you?
Yeah, there's a lot of different tools you can use. I think one of the most important has been creating the space for it. And that space is going to look different for all of us. For me, that has been journaling and meditating and being in nature more, and actually literally creating a lot of space. So there was a good 3-month period at the end of last year into the beginning of this year where I finally said, you know what, I can't make sense of what I want to do with my business. So I'm just going to take a time out from everything. And that was also an anniversary of the loss. So I created this pocket, which some of us have jobs, we have kids, you can't necessarily just opt out of life completely, but creating as much space as you can for you to be with yourself and really tune in. That might be prayer, might be meditation, it might be walking, it might be something totally different. It's different for everybody. But in order to see what comes next, you have to be in tune with yourself. And that can be hard when there's trauma involved. You know, there's a lot going on in your body when there's trauma involved. It can be hard when there's grief, because grief is its own beast. Mm-hmm. But the more space you can take to yourself to really feel into what's going on for you is important. And that's one of the second most important steps, I would say, is being willing to fully face into and move through whatever is there. So for me, that looked like, I'm feeling a wave of grief. It's easy to be like, oh, you know, I'm sad, like, let me focus on something positive. But really sinking into the grief and letting yourself fall apart, like on the kitchen floor in a ball, feeling like I'm going to stop breathing, I'm crying so hard. And that's what moves it. That's what allows that wave of grief to pass. Or anxiety, you know, sitting with the anxiety versus resisting it and allowing the anxiety to move through you. And all of our emotions are meant to move. The only time they're bad is if we let them sit, and if we dwell on them, or if we resist them and we push them away. If we just let them pass through, they actually move really quickly. And so giving yourself permission to be angry, to be sad, to be frustrated, to be anxious, to be whatever it is. And when it moves, not only will you have moved some of that emotion so you can start healing and choosing something new, but you get a lot of information as to, you know, what is there that needs to be healed? What is the belief that I'm holding on to that needs to be shifted? Or I'm constantly feeling anxious when I'm around these people. Like, why is that? What is the information here for me to work with? So shifting it from, oh my God, I'm a broken mess, or this is a bad way to feel, or this is taking too long, to what's the information here and how can I make the space for it to move through me? Those are some of the key tools.
Yeah. And I like that you say it's one of the most important things you can do, because what I'm sure a lot of the people who are listening are going to say is, oh my gosh, that is terrifying. That is the last thing I want to do, is be by myself where it's quiet and have all of this just kind of like come on me. But like you said, it's a wave and you feel the power of that rush just coming on. But when you stop fighting it and you allow it to move through you, then you can begin the healing process.
Yes, and that's something I talk a lot about on my new site, which is you have to move through that point that feels like death. Like, these emotions are not easy. I'm not going to pretend that it's like, oh, you just feel them and like la-di-da, everything's better. It can literally feel like it's going to consume you and that you're going to die. And the only way that it can be bad for you is if you get stuck in it or you dwell on it. If you move through it, that's where we start to find that connection with God, with faith, with source, with ourselves, with peace and joy. It's only by going through it that we can truly access that. And also, you know, we're always talking about what are the lessons and the gifts. Like, there's a reason for everything. And I believe that's true, but I don't believe that you can find that until you go through it. If you think you know what the lesson is before you've gone through it, you're making it up. And you're basically bypassing the real work and the real insights and the real nuggets. So the only way to the other side is through.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. So, Stephenie, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing now. What is the new that you're kind of growing into? And then I also want you to tell us, if there's viewers that want to work with you, that their heart is just saying, oh my gosh, I have got to connect with her. How do I do that? So tell us how to connect with you.
Yeah. So you can go to callofthevoid.tv. That's where everything new and exciting lives. And like you said at the beginning, what I'm really focusing on is using the hero's journey as a framework and a tool. And the hero's journey is actually a narrative pattern that was developed by Joseph Campbell. And it's basically the framework for any movie, book, myth, story that has basically ever existed. He identified 3 phases and 12 core steps. And for me, when I found that tool when I was writing a book, I realized it's just the most powerful personal development tool, because it gives you a map for what is it that you're going through, what is the journey that you're on, and what is the purpose of the path that you're walking, which allows you to move through it much more quickly and allows you to, again, find those lessons and gifts and figure out, okay, if I want to rise up and come back from this, what is it that needs to happen next? And so I use that as a tool in my coaching. There's also a free PDF on my website, and I have a lot of great articles and videos as well.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephenie. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.